You're in the back part of the room, just slip out the back door. If you're in the front, then if there's room, you go in the front. Otherwise, you go out the back. All right. So we'll do it, and then we will get into what today's lesson is all about. And it's going to be the same lesson each of the next 3 days. So I hope you understand it today. If you do, tomorrow and the next day and Wednesday are going to be like the easiest days of the year. And if you don't, then you get multiple chances to get it down pat. On Thursday, there's a pretest. On Friday, there's a test. And it'll be the same pattern next week, too. Next week will be new stuff on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Pretest Thursday, test Friday. The week after that, you go on your 8th grade trip. So we'll have lessons Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but there's not going to be a test that week. Then when we come back, we'll have lessons Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Pretest Thursday, test Friday. And that pattern of events will happen throughout the rest of the year. All right? So whereas I felt it was a little bad that, garbage please, I felt that it was a little bad that we only had 3 tests in a market period. Now we're going to be able to get probably like 5 or 6 this market period.
What are they going to be on?
It'll be on, you'll see the pretest. It'll be very much what we're doing in class with a little bit of review mixed in. In all honesty, I would say, because of the repetitive nature of each of the lessons and the fact that we're not racing through material, I think they would tend to be a little easier, okay? All right, so the first 3 questions on today's Do It just asked you to review some equations and the ability to solve equations. You've actually been doing, the lesson for the next couple of days is all about combining like terms, and you've actually been doing it all year long in equations, and you're not even aware that you've been doing it. Now, this first equation you don't do it in. This is pretty easy. The tricky part of this equation is to realize that the 3n is what? Negative. What is the 4? Positive. So the first step is to subtract 4. Many kids make a mistake of adding 4 there. This negative sign here, between the 4 and the 3n, has nothing to do with the 4. It has complete to do with the 3n. Okay? Negative 8 and negative 4 make negative 12 equals. And now here's another place where kids make mistakes. Be very careful to write negative 3n. A lot of kids write 3n. I'd like to pause at this moment, and I'd like you to look at your papers. And when you look at your papers, I want to see, did you write minus 4 here, and did you remember to bring negative 3 down there? Those are the 2 most popular mistakes. If you remembered those, if you did not fall for those 2 mistakes, you're probably going to get the question right. Any questions? Okay, now, the n is being multiplied by negative 3, so I need to divide by negative 3. And negative 12 divided by negative 3 is positive 4. And that's my correct answer. Okay, any questions?
No, sir.
All right. Let's go to the next one in the middle. Is this the same side or an opposite side situation? Opposite side. So we do opposite operation. We always find the smallest number of a's. So there's my minus 2a. 5a minus 2a is 3a. Minus 9 is 26. Add 9, die. This is very routine at this point, send in the ground troops. 3a is equal to 35, and divide by 3. And sometimes you get weird looking answers, such as this improper fraction. 35 over 3, just leave it, that's fine. You do not need to convert to a mixed number, you do not need to convert to a decimal. Leave it 35 over 3 unless told otherwise, okay? All right, and letter C. I see that 3 outside the parentheses, and what automatically pops into my brain as to what the first step I do should be. Justice? Distribute it is. So we distribute the 3 here, and I get 3x plus 12 plus an x minus 2 is equal to 20. 3x plus x is 4x. 12 and negative 2 is 10 equals 20 minus the 10. And lo and behold, we get another problem where we get an improper fraction, but that's not an issue. We're beginning, I hope, to feel comfortable with answers like that. Okay, so 4x is 10 divided by 4x is 10, and it works out to 2.5 if you did that, but not necessary. So let's take a look at this next question here. Name the property and explain how you knew its name. What is this an example of? What property?
Distributed.
No, it's not distributive. I like that you recognize the parentheses. That's very good. But distributive, if you notice here, the 3 is directly in front of the parentheses, and it's not there. Go ahead. No, that would be commutative. Actually, I take it back. It is commutative. Very good. We're switching order. The 3 plus 1 is in the beginning here. The 3 plus 1 is at the end there. Commutative switches property. That's how you know its name. It switches the order, I should say. All right, any questions? All right, so now let's get to the new stuff for today. I do believe with all of my heart that lessons will be shorter the next few days. With shorter lessons, we're going to get some time during class to work on the homework. Okay, so we have 5 questions to get through, and then it's time to begin your homework. Now, the swirl for the day is to talk about these terms, or this phrase, combining like terms. What does it mean to combine? Put together, okay? For example, this morning when I woke up, I like to wear jeans on Monday. I like to just chill on Mondays. I like to chill on Fridays. So jeans, Friday, Monday, never fails. And then during the week, I'll wear whatever. I could wear some slacks. I could wear whatever's going on. But I wanted to wear the pink shirt today, like I told you about. My cousin passing away from cancer. So I wear the pink shirt. And then I start looking through the ties. And I'm looking to combine a tie. Thank you. That means I'm sweet, right? Right? Is that what you're trying to say? You're saying, Mr. Lindquist, you're a sweet teacher. That's very kind. Thank you so much. Or does it mean that you always think about food? Little of that too, maybe? Now, so I had to look for the tie that I could combine with the shirt and with the pants. Okay. So that was one thing. That's one example of combining. Another example of combining would be something like when you're making a meal, right? Usually you have a meat, you have a vegetable, and then you have some kind of starch that goes with it. So, when we combine, we put things together. We add them up. Combine es un similar, un agregar.
What language are you speaking?
Spanish. It means that to combine is like to add, to put them together. Now, like can mean a lot of things. Like, I mean, obviously I love my wife, but back in the beginning, I liked my wife. Okay. Or I could say I like the Mets, or I like the Rangers, or hey, stop. Or I could say I like the color blue, or I like the color red. Now, in this case, like doesn't mean that. It means similar. We could say, for instance, that 8th graders are alike. They're definitely not like 1st graders. Okay, there's a big difference. We could say that there's certain types of dogs, like, for example, German Shepherds, Pit Bulls, Central Asian Shepherds, Dobermans, Rottweilers. They are all guard type of dogs, so they are alike. They're not exactly the same thing as a pug, okay? With the little smushed up face. They're like an accessory that you put in your pocketbook and carry around from place to place. All right, those are not alike. So when we say combining, that means putting together. Like means things that are of the same nature, okay, of the same type. And terms. A term is 2b, or a term is 3, or a term is negative 4x or 4a. So we want to put the terms that are similar to each other together. Now, I'm going to take one little step back and talk for a moment about my grandfather. My grandfather was a very, very tough man. Have you seen the movie Gran Torino?
Yeah.
With Clint Eastwood?
No.
If you have not seen it, I strongly recommend you see it. It won an Academy Award, won multiple Academy Awards. Yeah, Marco, your age, not my age. Marco says he liked the movie. What it is basically, it's about an American war vet. I think he was in the Korean War, but it might have been World War II. An older man, and he lives in a neighborhood that's being overrun by gangsters. And these gangsters try to influence a young boy who lives across the street from him. And I got it. And as part of the initiation, Jason, to get this young boy into their gang, they tell the young kid that they want the young kid to go steal this old man's Gran Torino. It's a really mint-looking sports car. The sheet's right over there. So he tries to steal it, and Clint Eastwood catches him. And rather than turning him over to the cops, he has him, I don't know, whatever, clean the yard or something like that. And the young kid and Clint Eastwood start getting along together, and they start experiencing a bond together. And Clint Eastwood sees what the gang is trying to do to him. And Clint Eastwood wants to protect him from the gang. And Clint Eastwood is always a tough guy in the movies. If you ever saw the old Dirty Harry movies, he was Dirty Harry Callahan, the cop. He wasn't dirty because he took bribes. He was dirty because he just killed the criminals. He didn't bother bringing them to court. And he had a .44 Magnum, and his famous line was, "Go ahead, punk. You got to ask yourself a question. You got to ask yourself, do you feel lucky? This is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world. You got to ask yourself, if you go for your gun, do you feel like you can beat this gun? Go ahead, punk. Make my day." So those are the very famous words of Clint Eastwood in the Dirty Harry movies.
Yeah,
I'm
you
scared.
like
And
scare me sometimes.
He would inevitably shoot the bad guy. So Clint Eastwood is like an American icon in the movies. Now, and Gran Torino is an outstanding and excellent movie. And the reason, a lot of reasons I recommend it. First of all, in the movie, Clint Eastwood is very much like my grandfather, who was of the same generation. And my grandfather also had a Gran Torino from the same year, 1973, which he gave to me, and I cared for a short while until a neighbor's tree branch broke off and fell through the roof. That's true. So help me, that's true. So anyway, my grandfather, when you were from like World War II, and you were from the Korean War, you did not say to your son, "I love you." God bless. It just didn't happen. You did not like put your arm around your son and say, "I'm so thankful you're in my life." You were hard on your son. In fact, fathers tend to be hard on their sons. My grandfather was very hard on everybody in the family, but for some reason, he and I just formed this really special bond. And he would let me use his tools. He used to work for Grumman. He has like every tool in the world. He had a 3-car garage. And along one of the walls in the garage, he had lots and lots of shelves and buckets. And he would put buckets on these shelves. And if you had a job to do, all he would do is go grab the right bucket for the job. For instance, I don't know if anybody here has ever sheetrocked, okay? Sheetrocking is easy. I enjoy sheetrocking. I hate spackling. Now, and if you, I'll pay whatever the spackler wants. They rip you off. They charge way more money than they're worth. But they do it so quick, so fast, so easy, you don't get a headache that you pay the spackler what the spackler wants. So anyway, my grandfather had a bucket for all of his sheetrock tools, and it would say sheetrock on the thing. And the hammer he liked for sheetrocking, actually he used a screw gun for sheetrocking. Everything that you used for sheetrocking was in this bucket. And then also everything that you would use for spackling was in this other bucket. So one day I put up a whole bunch of sheetrock around the house, and my grandfather came over and said, "Okay, now we're going to put the sheetrock up together. I'll get you started, and we'll also make it a point to spackle together." So what my grandfather would do is he would grab the bucket for this and a bucket for that. You did well, right?
Yes.
Good. All right, so he would grab the 2 buckets, drive to the house. And then he would leave the buckets with me. He would leave the buckets with me, and I would do my work. But you just know, because of the type of man my grandfather was. He would hit you into his 90s. He would hit you if you didn't do what you were supposed to do. That if I didn't put the right tools back in the right bucket, oh my God, bam, bam, bam. It wasn't, "Oh, Johnny, please don't do that again." It was, "Yo, boy, I beat the crap out of you." He could be in his 90s, he'd start wailing on me. So, everything went in its own bucket. If you put the wrong thing in the wrong bucket, it broke his system down, because then the next time someone said, "I need you to sheetrock," or "I need you to do some spackle work," and he went and grabbed the bucket, and he went to the house, he wouldn't have all the things he needs to get the job done right. And that's exactly how you do these questions, okay? What you're going to do is this. There are 2 types of terms in this problem, boys. There are A's and there are B's. So I'm going to create 2 buckets. Draw little buckets on your page there. And then all I'm going to do is put each term in its own kind of bucket. For A here. Now, do the B's go in the A bucket? No. 3B here. Now, here's where the lessons of earlier in the year are a big handy thing. What kind of A is this?
Negative.
Negative. So make sure you put negative A there. And then what kind of 2B is that? Positive. Now, if I don't write a sign, I assume it's positive, all right? But you can write positives in front of each of these things. In fact, when you first start doing this work, it's probably helpful to put the positives in front. Now, once you take all of these terms and put them all in the proper bucket, all you then do is add up what's left in the bucket and write it down. For instance, in this bucket, I have 4 A's and a negative A. So altogether, what do I have? 3 A's. And in this bucket, I have positive 3 B's and positive 2 B's. So altogether, what do you have? Positive 5 B's. Now, some people like to look at it as add the 3 A's and the 5 B's. No, 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 no. We're not adding them. We're not getting 8 AB's. That would be like mixing up everything in the buckets. That's wrong. We want to just keep our A's here, and we're saying there are positive 3 A's. No sign in front means positive. And we're saying there are positive 5 B's. And this is the answer. We're done.
Really?
Yes, there is no more to do than that. You guys try the second one on your own.
How many buckets?
You can draw the buckets for as long as you want to draw the buckets for. So in this problem, there are two types of things. There are numbers and there are x's. It never makes a difference which thing goes in which bucket, but it's kind of traditional to put the x's in the first bucket. So I'm going to put them there. If you put them in the second bucket, it's not a big deal, and I'll show you why when we're done with the problem. The 3 is going to go in this bucket. What kind of 4x is this? Negative. Again, it's not going to, if you switch the buckets, it's not a problem. This is a positive x, it goes here, and the negative 8 goes here. Now, let's just say what we have in this bucket. What are negative 4x's and positive 3x's? Negative 3x's, good. And in here, what's positive 3 and negative 8? Negative 5. That's my answer. If you put negative 5 minus 3x, is the 5 still negative? Yes. Is the 3x still negative? Yes. So you are correct, and you would get full credit. It's just kind of traditional. They call it standard polynomial order to put the x's first. And if there was x squareds, it would go in front of those. And if there were x to the thirds, it would go in front of those. We'll work a little more on that on the coming days, but it's really not a big deal. All right, how many buckets do you need for the next problem? 3, because we have A's, B's, and C's. Go ahead. All right, so I'm going to put my 3A in this bucket. Can I put my 2B in the same bucket? No. What kind of 2B is that? Positive. So I put positive 2B. And likewise, I have to put the negative C. Be very careful about that negative. Kids get these questions wrong when they're either forgetful or lazy about putting the signs in front. If you remember to put everything in its own bucket and you remember to put the signs in front, you almost always get it right unless you add wrong. Now, which bucket does this negative 2A go in? The first, the second, or the third? First. That's the A bucket. See? A's. No, I thought I said 2A. I apologize. Yo muy malo. Now, What about this negative 5b? What bucket does that go in?
2.
The second bucket, good. And now, it almost faked you out. You kind of expected this to be a C term. It's not. I have to put another negative 2a here. Now, all together in the A bucket, what do I have? How many A's? Negative A, good. And if you wrote negative 1a, that's fine. Next bucket, how many B's do I have? Negative 3b. Remember, when the signs are opposite like they are on this problem, you subtract and you keep the sign of the bigger number. Of course, the negative list would be longer, right? There's my 5 negatives, there's my 2 positives, there's 3 negatives left. We did that work early in the year. Okay? Any questions? Okay, so we can do this, but now we want to get to the point where it's a little cleaner. Now, when we first start learning about this work, buckets are very, very helpful because it lets us see where we're, what we're doing and where we're doing it and so on and so forth. But as time goes on, we don't want to actually draw the buckets every time. But I also want to be clear that you are welcome to draw buckets for as long as you want. But for those who feel like they don't necessarily need to draw a bucket, I'm going to look at this problem and I'm going to sort it this way. I'm going to get all of my x squareds together as if I was actually putting them in a bucket, but I'm just not going to draw it. What kind of 3x squared is this? Positive. And what kind of x squared is this? So what's 3x squareds plus 1x squared? 4x squared. So that's my first term. Next, how many x's, or what kind of 5x's is that? And what kind of 7x's is that? So what's positive 5x's and negative 7x's? Negative 2x's. Good. And here, what's 2 negatives and 9 negatives? 11 negatives. And this, folks, is my answer. 4x squared minus 2x minus 11. Remember when I talked before about standard polynomial order? This is it. The x squared term, then the x term, then the number term. Okay? Why don't you guys try the last one there? All the rest of them. Go ahead. This one, I think we actually end up with 4 terms. Actually, we end up with 3 because one of them cancels each other out. Another 30 seconds or so. Okay, so there's an x cubed term all by itself, so there's my x cubed. Now this is interesting. I have negative 3x squareds and positive 3x squareds. What do they add up to? No x squareds. So I don't have to put an x squared term. What's negative 4x's and negative 3x? Guys, I got negative 4x's and negative 3x's. What is that? Negative 7x. And then I have positive 5 and positive 2. What is that? Positive 7. And there's my answer. Okay, folks. Perfect timing. Hasta la vista. Vaya con Dios. Toodaloo. Ta-ta. Arrivederci. Smile a lot. Ciao. Adios, amigos y amigas. Cheerio. Ta-ta. See you later. Toodaloo. Sayonara. Garusharus. Kodafis. Bye-bye. Okay, then.
You said you studied.
This is why I don't take language.